Hello, everyone. We are a mining consultancy that has provided independent professional advice to mining companies, providers of capital, law firms, and government agencies for over 35 years. Staffed by senior mineral industry consultants with extensive international experience, we are here to discuss relevant topics for the benefit of our mineral industry followers. And now, here is your host, Senior Mining Engineer, Alan San Martin.
Hello, everyone. I am Alan San Martin, your host at the Micron Insights. Welcome to our podcast. Before we begin, this is our sustainability statement. At Micron, we work with our clients to promote responsible mining and to integrate the principles of sustainability into their mining projects. The topic for today is NI 43-101, the do's and don'ts. My colleague and co-host Bill Lewis is joining us from Toronto office. Bill is the principal geologist at Micron. Hi, Bill. Welcome back to the Micron Insights. How are you?
I'm very well, Alan. How are you?
Thank you so much. Excited to keep talking about interesting topics in consultancy. So we know extensively about NI 43-101, the National Instrument 43-101, which is the Standards of Disclosure of Mineral Projects. What is NI 43-101?
Well, Alan, NI 43-101 is a reporting format for Canadian companies, Canadian mineral companies, to be exact, on the Canadian stock exchanges. So the report is NI 43-101 is simply a reporting format for companies to follow when reporting the results of mineral projects on a Canadian stock exchange.
So the purpose of the NI 43-101 is?
The purpose is a disclosure of all the scientific and technical information that an issuer has on their mineral property, done usually by an independent QP, qualified person, that is in most cases, and probably the majority of cases, independent of the company.
Yeah, but the instrument is to protect the public as well.
Yes, and it's the purpose of the NI 43-101 is disclosure of the information, so that the investor into these mineral properties and into the mineral companies has an informed, independent opinion of the mineral properties, so that they can rely on the information that's in these reports for their investing purposes. This was brought about in Canada anyway because of Bre-X, where you had a company in the 1990s basically reporting wild grades and continuity and resource estimates for a project that was based on a series of lies. And, the investors relied on these so-called professionals, geologists and engineers, that they were saying the truth about the projects. And, when it came out and basically the stock market for the company collapsed, when it was found out that they were all based on lies, a lot of average investing people who may not know, all the details, they have an idea of the mineral industry, but they don't know all the details and the procedures, lost a lot of money and lost a lot of savings that they had put in this on the belief that the company was telling them the truth. So NI 43-101 was brought in for that simple reason, to protect the investing public from people that were basically shady.
Correct. So, in all the people that are uh, exploring and developing properties, mineral properties, when do they need an NI 43-101?
Well, it depends on a number of factors. One, NI 43-101s are generally needed by companies that are considered juniors or non-producing entities um, in the mineral industry. So, you know, you have to file an NI 43-101 on the merits of your property if you're doing a preliminary prospectus.
Mhm.
You know, if you're doing any information or proxy circulars concerning sort of a company trying to buy another company where the mineral property is the main asset. A rights offering. They have to quote an NI 43-101 in their annual information form, which is just basically the company's uh, form to investors on what they've been doing. You know, if a company's doing a valuation, there may be an NI 43-101 involved. If they're doing a takeover offer, there's probably an NI 43-101 underlying that takeover offer. And companies that are first time listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange or the TSXV Venture,
Yeah,
um, they need reports on their principal properties for getting listed.
yeah. So, as Michael, in our practice, we deal with this standard for disclosure all the time. And we also deal with the regulators that the Securities Commission in Canada, either mostly in British Columbia and Ontario. So, what we have learned from that practice, because the topic of this talk is the do's and don'ts. So, can you comment on what is that you
Yeah.
should doing and not doing?
Okay. So that is a very broad topic. I don't know if we'll be able to discuss it fully in the
Yeah, at least
time that we're here,
the
but
most important
base,
ones are.
basically the most important things about an NI 43-101 is to include all well, actually the first thing is to realize that just because a company has posted an NI 43-101 on CDAR, which is the sort of clearinghouse for all Canadian companies' information for on the exchange. You have press releases, etc. But just
Yeah,
because a NI 43-101 is posted on CDAR does not mean it has been reviewed or approved by the exchange.
right.
They, the so there are reports out there that may have deficiencies. And a deficiency can be minor items like forgetting to say, that the assay laboratory was independent of the issuer of the report. Um, it may be other material things that are called for in the reports, like the true width of mineralization. There's nothing noting what the true width of the mineralization is. It might not note if there are any higher grade assays within a assay interval. There are multiple things that need to be prescribed in the report according to the regulations.
Yeah,
But it the investor needs to know that just because it's posted on CDAR does not necessarily mean that it has been read or approved by the exchange. Now, the exchange does review the reports, and if they do find deficiencies, those will be noted and, to the company, and the company will have to have the QP review the deficiencies and basically get rid of the deficiencies or correct the deficiencies, and they will have to refile the report with an updated date. So that's one of the things that I think the listeners need to be aware of. As for deficiencies, just because a report is deficient doesn't mean it's not technically correct.
Correct.
The deficiencies are something that was missed in the prescribed contents of the report, because each chapter has prescribed things that must be in the report. So for, the history section, prior ownership of the property and ownership changes need to be put in there. So if that's not in there, it's a deficiency. Does it mean that the report is technically deficient? No. It just means that the author forgot or did not know who the previous owners of the property were. A deficiency could be any production from the property. So, in the case of some reports in countries, there has been production on the property, but some of it is historic and there are very few records, as what happens in Latin America quite often. You have old historical workings on the property, but you don't have production records. So just a note in there that there are historical records or historical workings on the property in the history section, and there are no records of what was produced. But just that could be seen as a deficiency if you don't say that there were no records of what was produced. So that's sort of what you need to know. The key contents are definitely prescribed in each section, and those must be in each section, and that's where a lot of deficiencies for companies result in, is because somebody forgot to say, as I just said, there was production on the property, but there's no records.
Okay. So the benefit of having a 43101 is mostly for the investing public, right?
Yes,
those are the people that is being protected against any possible wrongdoing or misinformation.
Yeah, that's the primary benefit, is that it's supposed to be written in such a way that the average layman, who understands maybe a little bit about mining but doesn't know all the ins and outs, can understand what the company is that the report is written for, the minerals that are involved, what stage they're at in the development of the project, because NI 43-101s there's a various types of them. The earliest one could be what we at Micon call a property of merit report, which is just basically, we've gone out, we've seen the property, we've taken samples, and for instance, yes, there is gold and copper mineralization on the property, and the geology is what the client is saying it is, and the deposit type is roughly what the client is saying it is.
Now, about that topic, I want to ask you specifically, can you write a technical property of merit without any sampling? like just the geology evidence at surface, or a sample must be taken?
Well, there are properties where it is very difficult to take samples in case, if the sample has overburden, for instance. Um, there are instances, but there are if there's no outcrop or overburden, then there's got to be something there that tells you there's mineralization. So it's either there's been some drilling done, been some stream sampling done that indicates that there's mineralization on the property.
So
It's very difficult to write a technical report and claim there's mineralization on a property if you don't have samples to back that up.
even if you see historical sampling that you cannot prove, or maybe they're lost
Well,
or damaged.
if there's
Yeah.
historical sampling on the property, there has been sampling on the property. It's up to the QP to verify the historical sampling of however they do it. Maybe there's historical corax on the property. Maybe there's, in case of, some of the Latin American projects with old workings on them, maybe some of the old workings are somewhat accessible. And, you can safely get a sample from them to demonstrate mineralization. Maybe there's some old dumps um, from
Yeah.
the from the workings where you can get grab samples. But generally, you need some evidence that's to really say that there's mineralization on the property, and the only way to do that is by doing some type of sampling.
Yeah, scientific evidence, like it has
Yeah,
to.
exactly. Otherwise you can go out in your backyard and claim you have a gold deposit, and you know
Correct.
you've dug down 2 feet and you take a sample and there's nothing there. But
Exactly.
the report you had said there was a gold deposit there. No, you really have to do some sampling or have some evidence that
Evidence, that's
there
the key. Yeah, evidence.
exactly evidence that shows that the mineralization that you're describing for that property is actually on that property.
Yeah. So let's start wrapping up. So what is the final advice from Micon when it comes to writing 43101 reports?
Well, I would say the final advice is to basically understand and get a copy of NI 43101, the rules and policies, and get a copy of the other companion policy to NI 43101, which is, I think it's C companion policy NI 43101 F1, which is the um, rules for what needs to be in the technical report.
Yeah.
And follow those. And if you have any doubts about the the quality of the report, ask. I mean, you can ask another consultant to review the reports. It'll probably cost you a little bit for their time. You
Yeah.
can ask the company for copies of backup information. The NI 43101s don't necessarily have to have appendixes filed with them on CDAR. So if there are appendixes and they're not filed, you should be able to ask the company for copies of the appendixes.
Uh-huh.
And realize that NI 43101 is a summary of the technical material on the property. It's not the entire um, database that the company has, or for instance, in a feasibility study, it's
Yeah.
a summary of the feasibility study. It's not the feasibility study itself, which is usually multi-volume.
Yes.
and trade-off studies and stuff like that, which are all summarized in the feasibility study.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bill, for sharing with us today.
Very welcome, Alan.
And for our listeners, if you want to know more about 4301, do not hesitate to contact us. Go to our website or give us a call. The information will be shown at the end of this podcast. Have a nice day.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to leave us your comments or questions, and be sure to follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter so you are kept informed on future episodes.